Today, we'll be reporting on Lesson 4 Business Ethics. Let's begin by understanding how globalization, the way countries and cultures are increasingly connected. People around the world have different beliefs and values, and this can cause conflicts, especially in global trade and business. Because of this, experts say we need a global ethic or a set of universal moral principles that everyone can agree on to guide how countries and businesses interact. Although it's hard to find moral rules that apply perfectly to every culture, many basic values like honesty, fairness, and respect are common in most societies. One way to find these shared values is through intercultural dialogue, an open communication between people of different backgrounds. Now, some people believe that ethics has no place in business, but there are two perspectives on this. First, the affirmative perspective. It helps companies act fairly, protect people's rights, and build trust with customers and workers. Second, the negative perspective argues that business should focus only on making profit and that ethics either gets in the way or isn't needed. So, what makes business actions moral or immoral? Business refers to the production and sale of goods and services for profit through activities like entrepreneurship, partnerships, and corporations. Because of this huge influence, business actions must be looked at through a moral lens. Let me explain the key moral features of business. First, business acts have moral accountability, whether their agents deserve moral blame or praise. Business actions can be judged as right or wrong. For example, if a company knowingly sells a harmful product, they can be blamed for the consequences. They made a choice and they are responsible. Second, consequentialist moral standards. This means looking at the results of an action. For example, selling illegal drugs might make a lot of money, but it causes harm to individuals and society. So even if it's profitable, it's morally wrong. Third, business acts can violate moral rights. If a business exploits people like forcing workers to work long hours for very low pay, it violates their rights and is considered unethical. Fourth, business acts can result in an unfair distribution of benefits like wages or salaries and burdens or workload. Sometimes, businesses give high salaries to executives while workers are underpaid. This unfairness can be judged using ethical standards of justice. And lastly, business acts can lead in environmental damage. When companies harm the environment through pollution or waste, their actions can be judged using environmental ethics, which says we have a duty to protect nature. Now, let's look at 4 common objections to business ethics. First is the invisible hand argument. Based on the ideas of Adam Smith, it says that when businesses try to make profit, they automatically help society. According to this view, business ethics is not necessary because businesses help society on their own. But this argument has problems. Not all businesses help society. Also, companies often create artificial needs through advertising, convincing people to buy things they don't really need. So, not all profit-driven businesses are good for society. The second objection is the legal argument. It says that if a business follows the law, it's doing the right thing. But the truth is, what is legal is not always moral. For example, tax avoidance by rich companies might be legal, but many people see it as unethical because it takes money away from public services like education and healthcare.
Third, we have the amorality argument. The amorality argument claims that business actions cannot be definitively classified as morally good or bad because they are governed by a distinct set of rules, similar to games. In a game like chess, moves are judged by their effectiveness in achieving victory, not by moral standards. Similarly, in business, actions are judged by their success in achieving goals, such as profit, not by whether they are morally right or wrong. Moral concerns arise only when a rule is broken, such as through cheating. However, this analogy falls short for 2 main reasons. First, we have the imprecise comparison. While games involve willing participants who understands the rules, business activities often affect people who never choose to participate, such as children exposed to misleading advertisements or consumers unaware of manipulative marketing strategies. Second, moral accountability in games. Even games aren't morally neutral. If a game causes harm or violates human rights, it must be morally scrutinized. Consider contact sports or historically violent games like Roman gladiator battles. Therefore, businesses like games should not be exempt from moral evaluation when it causes harm. Lastly, we have the immorality argument. On the other hand, the immorality argument states that a profit motive is inherently selfish and morally questionable when compared to altruistic motives like charity. However, this argument overlooks that not all selfishness is vicious. There is a form of non-vicious selfishness acting in self-interest without harming others or violating their rights. In business, the pursuit of profit does not inherently mean unethical behavior, like players in the game. Businesses can strive to succeed while still respecting fairness and moral principles. General Motors and the Poletown Dilemma. Let's examine this through the case of General Motors in 1980. Facing a financial downturn, General Motors planned a new 40 billion capital program to build fuel-efficient vehicles. They needed a new assembly plant and had three options. Option 1, retain the two existing Detroit plants. The impact is saves 500 jobs and supports the struggling Detroit community. Their motive is to ethically driven prioritizes compassion over profitability. Option 2, close Detroit plants and build a cheaper new facility in another states. The impact of it is maximizes profit but remove jobs from Detroit. Their motive is purely commercial, guided solely by economic interest. Option 3, close Detroit plants and build a new one in Poletown, Detroit. The impact is creates over 6,000 jobs, support local economy, but at a higher cost than option 2. Their motive is a balance of ethical and economic considerations, seeking both profitability and social responsibility. Assumptions and ethical discussion. From this case, we draw several principles. First, businesses often prioritize profit because that is their nature. Second, ethical actions stem from a desire to do what is right even if it's less profitable. Third, when faced with two profitable paths, one ethical and one not, the ethical path should be chosen. Profitability and morality do not always conflict, but when they do, ethical standards should prevail. The case of General Motors shows that businesses are not morally neutral actors. Their decisions have real-world implications and should be evaluated accordingly.
Some ethical issues in business. Systemic issues. These are concerns about how laws, regulation, and business structures affect fairness, worker treatment, and social outcomes. It questions whether the current system promotes justice and well-being. Morality of capitalism. Capitalism relies on free market with little government control. Critics say it can lead to worker exploitation and harmful products. Supporters argue that in perfectly competitive market, fair prices and mutual benefit naturally occur, protecting the rights of all involved. Doing business in global economy. Multinational companies operate in many countries. Ethical issues arise when they exploit cheap labor, weak laws, or sell harmful or banned products in host countries. Corporate issues are about whether a company is doing the right thing in how it runs its business. This includes its policies, decisions, and how it treats people and the environment. It's about looking at the company as a whole and asking if it acts responsibly and ethically in society. Corporate moral responsibilities. Companies can be seen in two ways. Individual view. Only the people making decisions are morally responsible. Collectivist view. The company itself has moral responsibility because decisions come from its system, not just individual. Advertising. Ads inform and persuade but can be unethical when they manipulate, especially children. This violates autonomy, our ability to make free, informed choices.
Discrimination. Workplace discrimination is another major ethical concern. This occurs when decisions are made based on factors not relevant to job performance, like gender, race, sexual orientation, disability, and religion. Employers must ensure that all decisions are based solely on merit and job related qualifications. Employee privacy. In the workplace, Employee privacy refers to the right of employees to control the nature and scope of personal information that employers can access. A corporation infringes on employee privacy when it uses inappropriate methods of information collection such as hidden cameras and microphones, wiretapping, lie detector tests, personality inventory tests, and spies. These methods are considered acceptable only under extraordinary circumstances, such as when a company is suffering major losses due to frequent employee theft. Companies are only entitled to collect job-relevant information such as academic qualifications, skills and competencies, and work experience. Furthermore, employees must give voluntary and informed consent before any personal data is collected. They must know what information is being collected and why. Anti-competitive practices of corporations sometimes try to reduce competition to increase profits. While it may be profitable, it's considered unethical because it harms the spirit of fair competition. Examples of these unethical practices include price fixing, when companies agree to set prices instead of letting market forces decide. Manipulation of supply, where companies limit production to increase prices. Next, market allocation, when companies divide the market among themselves. Exclusive dealing arrangements, forcing retailers not to buy from competitors. Tying arrangements, where a buyer must purchase additional products to get what they want. Price discrimination, charging different prices to different customers for the same product. Number 3. Individual issues. On the individual level, ethical issues in the workplace can arise from personal behavior. One example is a conflict of interest, when an employee's personal interests influence their professional decisions in a way that's not in the company's best interest. Another is employee theft. This includes stealing company goods, money, or software, confidential data and information, or using company time and resources for personal gain.
So what is whistleblowing? Whistleblowing is an act of disclosing misconduct to an authority or making it public, often related to corporate or organizational wrongdoing. The views on the morality of whistleblowing. Number 1. Whistleblowing is morally wrong due to loyal obligations. Number 2. Whistleblowing is morally right as an exercise of free speech. However, both views have limitations, and the morality of whistleblowing depends on specific circumstances and relevant moral principles. Also, whistleblowing can be moral right if it's an optional and no blame if done, and a moral duty if mandatory, blame if not done. Sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a form of sex discrimination that involves unwelcome sexual advances, demands, or other physical or verbal conduct of sexual nature. Sexual harassment can be unwanted sexual advances, demand for sexual favors, and other sexualized behavior. Victims can be both men and women, but women are more commonly affected. Sexual harassment becomes discrimination if it's a condition for employment, benefits, or career advancement. There is also a Philippine law of Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. Republic Act 7877 prohibits sexual harassment in the workplace. Sexual harassment creates a hostile work environment and can have serious emotional and professional consequences for victims. Employers have a responsibility to prevent and address sexual harassment in the workplace. And lastly, political tactic. According to Velasquez 1995, organizational politics are the processes in which individuals or group within an organization use non-formally sanctioned power tactic to advance their interest. For example, number 1, blaming or attacking others. Number 2, controlling information. Number 3, developing a base support for one's ideas. Number 4, image building. 5, ingratiation. Number 6, associating with the influential. Number 7, forming power coalitions and developing strong allies. Number 8, creating obligations. Number 9, getting control over scarce resources desired by others. Number 10, establishing favorable relationship.